Hello, hello. We're going to start here in just a minute, you guys, as you file in. Welcome, welcome. We are going to be talking today about love. Go figure. But we're not going to be just talking about romantic love and relationships and all of that. We're going to delve a little bit deeper into exactly what is love and how we can love ourselves, how to love well. What does it mean? You guys just file in. Feel free to share. Feel free to share with the world. Feel free to share with your followers here. Hey, Stacy. And I would love for anybody who joins us here on the Fireside app, if you open the app on your phone and you join on the app, I would love to have you come and join the conversation and join us chatting about this. So just give it one more minute before we get up on camera and I turn this music down and talk to you guys a little bit about what I have in store. All right. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. How's it going? Turn this music off here. All right. I had my own music playing, so you won't hear the normal clapping for me. I can clap for myself. All right. Um, so look, today I was supposed to have a guest on and we had to move his show to March 21st. But I thought, you know what? I think this is what was supposed to happen because I really did want to bring up the topic of love on this day of love, right? And what it looks like. What it looks like. So let me introduce myself first for people in studio, for people listening on the web. My name is Deanna. I am a speaker, educator, and coach that brings light and lightness to the heavy topic of trauma. I am a thriver after intimate partner violence, and it led me to find the beauty in healing and to find laughter after that healing. And I believe we're all magic and we're all self healers and we're all capable and have already inside of us everything that we need to do the work. Okay. So I was thinking on this topic today, and it really was something that resonated with me when I read this with Brene Brown. So I'm going to read to you what her definition or how we cultivate love. And then I want to talk about it because on this day of love that's been super commercialized and super sensationalized, you know, when we watch TV and we look at TV and our expectations are what we see enacted, well, that's not real life. And we have to keep that in mind because sometimes we tend to build up in our heads and in our expectations that fantasy. So that's one thing. But what if you're not even in a romantic relationship? What if you're not? What is that look like for you? Does that mean you're automatically lonely? Does that mean you automatically don't have love in your life? So let's read what Brene Brown has to say about love. She wrote a book called Atlas of the Heart, Mapping Meaningful Connection and the language of that connection, because language matters, because when we say words, we automatically conjure up a picture of what that is. So, this is her definition. She says, we cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply seen and known. And when we honor the spiritual connection that grows from the offering with trust, respect, kindness, and affection. So when you put all of these things together, she says love is not something we give or get. It is something we nurture and grow, a connection that can be cultivated between two people only when it exists within each one of them. We can love others only as much as we love ourselves. Feel like I need to pause there for just a second because that's why I wanted to come here and talk about this. If we don't know ourselves and we don't love ourselves, then what we have to spread out into the world, regardless of who it is that we come in contact with, is not going to be a full expression. So love is actually part of our being, and it is part of our birthright. As a matter of fact, studies have been done on infants who cannot thrive if they do not have love. It has been shown that that connection and that bond that is there or needs to be there at birth for them to be nurtured and for a child to develop and grow, literally, if it's not there, children have died. Now, we as adults are capable of surviving, quote unquote, but many of us cannot thrive without having love for ourselves. And that's where it starts. If we don't start there and we're only looking for it externally, that's where you find people break down. That's where you find people who turn into depression or poor mental health states because of the fact that they only think that they can receive love externally from something else or someone else. Okay, sorry. I thought I was going to sneeze, but it went away. Okay, so, when we talk about love, that connection that we need to have and build with ourselves is first and foremost the most important thing. So, one of the things she says here is that shame, blame, disrespect, betrayal, and the withholding of affection damage the roots from which love grows. Love can survive these injuries only if they're acknowledged, healed, and are rare. So I want you to think about that. We can survive those injuries, it says, if they are acknowledged and they are healed. So I want to ask the question, have you ever experienced heartbreak? See, we can only experience heartbreak if we've lost love. And the interesting thing about heartbreak is we don't have to have received love from that person to experience the heartbreak. So if we've heard of unrequited love, right? That is a person who has created an image of love based on the way they feel, but it was not returned to them. And when it was not returned to them, they were heartbroken. So, understanding the fact that we have this massive capacity to spread love through things like being able to trust, respect, be kind, and have affection, when we think about those things and that we have that capacity, then how do we turn that inward? How do we turn that to ourselves so that, number one, we are loving ourselves well, so that we are giving ourselves the things that we need and not completely reliant on external factors? I'm not saying it's not nice to have a companionship in love. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we need to be whole and complete within ourselves to be able to love someone fully, wholly, and without any strings, right? I think a better definition of unconditional love is wholehearted love. And to have wholehearted love, we have to first have a whole heart in the figurative sense. So, how do we work to bring ourselves into a relationship, a loving relationship with ourselves? Well, there's a lot of things that we can do. I'm going to name just a few things here, but one of the very most important thing is that you take time to spend only with yourself in a place that you are refueling. What does that look like for you? What does that look like for me? It's different for everybody. But for me, this is my hour and a half every morning where I get my coffee and I do my meditation. And then maybe I sit down and journal, or sometimes I sit down and I do some mindful doodling. But I take time every morning to refill my cup, to focus only on me, nothing else, no one else. And not the house, not work, not emails, not social media. It is strictly me and me. And the very first thing I do every single morning, period, it's before I get out of the bed, is I down a cup of water or so and I do a meditation. This is every single day. I'm not a person who likes strict routines, so I don't like things over and over again, but this is one thing that I do every single day, consistently, every morning. What it does for me is it allows me to enter into a place of space and grace. It allows me to go to a place of silence, quiet, meditation. Sometimes it's guided, sometimes it's not. And I sit with myself. Whatever comes up, comes up. I let it exist. I let it float on. And I am oftentimes filled, when I'm using guided meditation, with something that allows me to really focus in on compassion, love, whatever it is that's being talked about in that meditation. I know 100% it's all for me. See, if we don't learn how to pull down the walls, then love is not something that can be extended. Not only can we not extend it outward, but we can't receive it either, because we've learned to protect ourselves. We've put ourselves in this little, walled city, and we don't interact. We don't allow people in that far. See, love requires authenticity, and authenticity requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is courageous. When you are vulnerable, you leave yourself open to hurt. When you're willing to love, you leave yourself open to hurt. One of the things that will help you through hurt is the fact that you are always solid in the love you have for yourself. One of the quotes she has in here I think is really interesting. She says, "We need more real love. Gritty, dangerous, wild-eyed, justice-seeking love." And I think that wild-eyed, gritty, and justice-seeking is such a really cool way of putting it, because I don't think we'll ever fully unravel or comprehend the mysteries of love. If you think about language and you look and explore other languages other than English, other languages have so many words for all kinds of different forms of love, right? There's you know, the unconditional, biblical, love your brother type of love, right? There's the deep romantic love. There's erotic love. There's so many different types of love. And other languages have things that express that for us we have to use entire sentences to express it. But the thing is, we are just beginning, really, in research in the last, say, 20 or 30 years to understand that the level of love we need has to do with connection. It has to do with the fact that we are made in our makeup to naturally desire and thrive with connection. So, being able to love yourself and love yourself well allows you to be open to those connections. So this morning I did a an Instagram live, and it was interesting because when I was talking about this, it brought to mind something I had read in another book. And it was about just greeting everyone, greeting your day with love, but greeting everyone you come across with love. Okay. And it was literally saying every time you see someone in your day, to say to yourself, I love you. In your heart, in your mind, say that thought about the person you're interacting with. Now, if you approach every person like that, I promise you that that is going to give off an energy, a vibe that allows those people to feel that. And not only are you going to feel better about it, but you're going to really lift somebody else up. They might not be able to put their finger on it, but they're going to feel it. And I'll give you an example of this. When I started doing that, I was going to, it's just some point in time, I went to this race. And in the race, I took a Lyft or Uber, whatever it was, to get to the starting point of this race, right? It was in the city. So I was like, all right, well, got in the car that morning, and it was super early, and it was like a Saturday morning and super early. So in this city where I live in New Orleans, super early on a Saturday morning is not a thing because it's kind of a night city, right? So I got in and I was cheerful, and I greeted him in my heart and mind with love. I got in the car going, this is going to be a great day. I did all my things. It was like, in my heart and mind, I love you, right? I'm trusting you. I'm getting in the car with you, and I would love to connect with people. So we started having a conversation. Now, sometimes the drivers are not into the conversation. They want to put the music on and leave you to yourself. But maybe it was because I was all by myself. He was open to conversation. And so we had a lovely conversation. I can't even tell you what we talked about, but our conversation kind of went all over the place. And I remember it being, touching on some meaningful things. And when I got to my destination, I was like, thank you so much. This was such a nice ride. I enjoyed the conversation. He's like, you made my day. So it's like one of the best Uber drives I've ever had. I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you." So that exchange happened because I was open first. I'm not saying he wouldn't have been open, but I initiated that conversation. I initiated that openness. So how can you, by showing yourself love, by taking care of yourself, which is a form of showing yourself love, right? um, that you spread that outward once you do that. So I want you to think about things like this. If you are a mom, So if you have kids or if you have a spouse or you have sisters or your mother, whatever it is, when you think about taking care of them because you love them, what do? Things like when I think about my kids and I am saying, okay, how do I love them well? I go, okay, well, one of the ways that I can love my kids well is when they were growing up, is guiding them, but letting them be themselves and know that I will always accept them for who they are no matter what. Right. That was one thing that was super important to me when I was raising my kids. All right. Something else, maybe providing for them, making them feel comfortable, sitting with them when they're in pain. Right. Sometimes they go through things and I want to fix it, but fixing it is not loving them well. um, Fixing it is not allowing them to process through what they're going through. So being able to sit with them in the pain and go, you know what, it sucks. I'm going to sit right here with you. I'm going to let you feel it. I'm going to let you cry it out. You can punch the pillows, whatever you feel like you need to do. And I'm going to sit with you in it. And then when you're finished, I'm going to let you start thinking about what are ways that we can act, take some action, move, change it, how we're going to handle it from here, right? So when I think about that with my kids, this may have happened to you before with a friend. This can happen to you with your parents, like I said, with siblings. Think about how it is you care for them, what it is you do because you love them. And then I want you to take it and flip it and say, do I do that for me? Do I sit with myself and say, oh, you know what? I am going to show you unconditional love, Deanna, and accept you for exactly who you are. And when you made that mistake and you hurt those people in your life that you love, I'm going to sit with you while you go through that pain and give you the space and the grace that you need, just like I would give that to somebody else. I'm going to give that to me. And then I'm going to say, okay, what are you going to do to rectify the situation? So it is imperative for us to be able to show that love to ourselves, for us to be able to know ourselves before we can be able to be solid in the way we give love to others. Up until this point, you will give love the way you love yourself, and it'll go only as far as that. And all of us love ourselves to some degree because we're here. We're here. So we all love ourselves to some degree. But how do we take our love for ourselves to the level that it needs to be so that we are 100% confident in ourselves, in our own skin, and who we are, to be able to then open that up to other people in our lives? And that doesn't mean you open it up. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. Love is love, and people are people. It can be a romantic and intimate relationship. It can be your friendship. It can be family members. It could be a neighbor. How can you take what you give yourself when it comes to love and then be able to put it back out there? So we just came from Monica's show. I'm glad she popped in here. I don't know if you can talk, but she had somebody on her show and she had an amazing, just discussion about polyamorous relationships. And this is really talking about the capacity to be able to give love, receive love in multiple facets with multiple people in an intimate setting. Okay. So even though that's not the topic here, we did get into this topic, and the topic was, how can you know that you will be okay in those circumstances if you're not okay with yourself? If you don't know yourself and you don't love yourself the way you're supposed to love yourself, it's going to be very difficult, regardless of a monogamous relationship, a polyamorous relationship, a swinging relationship. It doesn't matter. A friendship, a family relationship. If you can't be confident and secure within yourself and in the way you love yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to engage in a very solid, loving, trusting, and respectful relationship with someone else. So I would love to hear from you guys. I have a few people in here. I know this show was supposed to be different, so this was kind of a last minute prep, but I really did love talking on Monica's show with her because in her show, she really brought up some amazing points about. I mean, she listed all the types of polyamorous relationships. I don't remember them all, but there were 9. But she really did talk about how we have to be working on ourselves in order for any of our relationship. So, yeah, I would love to hear from any of you guys if you are willing to jump up because I would like to hear what you have to say on this. Because on this day, typically, sometimes people who aren't in romantic relationships feel left out. As a matter of fact, yesterday is a whole new holiday that kind of rose out of the fact that it called Galentine's, right? And it kind of rose up out of the fact that we were going to hang out with our girlfriends because we don't have guys in our lives. But we don't need that to be complete, right? We don't need that to be complete. We can be complete within ourselves. And then when we enter in a relationship, we are complementary. We become a team, right? We start to complement one another with different strengths and talents and things that we bring to a relationship that just enhance what's already there. And it's not to say that we don't depend on that person at times and vice versa. We do. That's the beauty of a relationship. But then there is also this piece of a relationship when you're in that type of relationship that there are also different sacrifices and compromises that you have to make in those relationships that if you were just on your own, you're only answering to yourself and you don't have to do all of that. So polyester, you want to come up, Skinny? I haven't talked to you in forever. You're more than welcome to come up and chat with me. So that being said, hey, long time no
Hey, hey.
chat. How you doing?
I've been worse. If I was any better, it'd probably be illegal. So,
Oh, well, you know what? That's good to hear. You know,
yeah,
wanting
yeah,
a
I'm living.
polyester relationship. Tell me what you mean by polyester relationship.
Well, I just want a chick that digs polyester as much as I do. I think that was lost in like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Is it making a comeback? I don't know.
I don't know either. I hope so.
You do.
I look good in polyester.
I think, let me just say, I think everybody looks good in it. I don't know if an environment does great in it, but everybody looks good in it. It's always crisp and clean and nice.
Yeah, it's a little. It gets a little warm, but it's a trade off.
It's a trade
Like
off.
I can't do skinny jeans, so polyester is my thing.
Ah,
I
you,
want to bring polyester back.
I'm bringing polyester back. What? All right. So
No,
tell
I
me,
just
tell me what your thoughts are on this love situation, like for
Oh
real.
man, love is look. Nazareth summed it up in one song. Love hurts. It don't matter. It don't matter what kind of relationship it is. Love hurts. But no, look. Any relationship. I don't care if it's a two people situation or otherwise. Doesn't matter if it's a heterosexual or homosexual relationship or whatever. All the different labels and types and things out there. The bottom line is everybody involved in that relationship, and this is very central to the relationship in my opinion, but everybody in that relationship has to be absolutely honest, period, end of the story. I hate that old saying. I grew up in a time where people were like, okay, well, we're at school and one of the golden rules is never lie.
Mhm.
And then you go through your life and you're told, oh, but a little white lie, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. A lie is a lie is a lie. And the
Agreed.
thing is, if you lie in a relationship or you withhold in a relationship. And listen, folks, people think that being withholding in a relationship is just withholding affection and all. It doesn't just pertain to that, it pertains to withholding who you are. And if you're lying to any degree, it don't have to be a big thing. But if you're lying about that or you're withholding something of yourself in a relationship, that's still withholding and it's still going to damage the relationship because it's always going to come to the surface regardless. There's a thing I've been dealing with here recently. You get back with an ex and you sit down and you say, okay, well, let's forgive and forget and let's go on and all this, that, and the other. And it's all nice and wonderful there in that first little beginning part of it. And then pretty soon you realize that a lot of times you're resentful of that person for that stuff. And I think you have to grow up and ask yourself a question, my resentment, is that coming from the fact that I can't get over it like I thought I could? And is this going to be a carrying on ongoing situation? Am I bringing this baggage back into the same deal? You know what I'm saying? And that again, that
Mhm.
goes back to honesty and withholding in any relationship. Doesn't matter what kind it is. Everybody needs to be upfront about what they want, what they need at all times, because it does change, and just work from there. You got to have trust. You break down trust, and you got nothing.
I agree.
So
And I love what you
go ahead.
said just now. Just not to interrupt. Let me just say this real quick and then you can finish if you have more. But I like what you said just now, and that is withholding information, including withholding information about yourself and who you are, the real you, right? And we tend in relationships to kind of put on that facade. We grew up in all this romanticized movies and what it fairy tales and what it's supposed to be like in La La Land. What that's not real. We want to put our best foot forward when we're entering into relationships. But at the end of all of that, I mean, I'm not saying you have to go in on your first date and trauma dump on somebody. What I'm
Right.
saying is throughout that relationship, you do have to develop a level of trust where you can be yourself.
I don't know. I'm going
But
to
the
start. I'm going to start doing it like an AA meeting. I'm going to start as soon as I walk into that date. I'm going to stand up and be like, "My name is Tim, and I am traumatized." You know.
I my name is Tim and I come with 18 bags. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Just letting you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
So did you have something else? Good.
No. 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 Go ahead.
So but the thing is with that, and that kind of circles back to where I started, and that is how can you let somebody know who you are fully if you don't know who you are fully? Now,
Exactly.
I do believe that sometimes being in a relationship with the right person helps you discover more of who you are.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're with a person who accepts you openly, wholeheartedly, and does not want you to be anything but you, then you start feeling that level of comfort and the ability to go, I can just be me. If you've ever been traumatized by a relationship, you do understand that you have a hard time knowing who you are or just being and showing who you are. Because in the past, that was shamed, rejected, ostracized, abused, whatever it was. And so, again, that's baggage that you could have from a prior relationship that you have a difficulty bringing into a new relationship. And again, this can happen on an intimate relationship level, but it can happen on a friendship level. Have you had
Well.
friends that burned you?
Well. And here's another thing too. I like what you said a second ago about all it takes, and this is professional or personal, all it takes is it don't take a bunch of people. Like, they say it takes a village to raise a child. That may be true, but it doesn't take a bunch of people for you to be successful in being who you are or in a business matter. It takes one right person, and finding favor with that one right person that's going to lead you to who you actually are. And a lot of times the problem is you don't know who the hell you are. We all have this image. Look, I look at it this way. My life to me, and this came to me several months ago. I've lived an entire lifetime stuck inside the Truman Show. You know what I'm saying? I had this vision, this idea of who I was, who I thought I was, honest to God. And I had no idea until it came down. I came to a place in life, and nobody can tell you where that's going to be, by the way. It just happens. But I came to a place in life to where I started having to really take accountability and realize who I actually was and what I wanted out of life and where I wanted to be.
Mm.
And and it was just like I woke up and it was like, whoa, wait a minute. So I've been in the Truman Show my whole life, and I had allowed others, and that's part of my personality is I'm a people pleaser,
Mm.
and so I try not to be. I try to come off as this hard ass a lot of times or something. I'm really not. I'm a
Mm.
people pleaser, and so I had to realize a lot of my life, or at least a good portion of my adult life, especially, has been dictated by trying to want to please somebody else, want them to accept me or be happy with me or be proud of me or love me or whatever. And I even carried that into relationships to the point to where I was self-destructing only because I was holding back everything on who I was to try to please that person. And then I couldn't figure out why in the hell am I so miserable? You know what I mean? And then
Yes.
it's a reality that a lot of people don't get. I mean, it's you gotta. I guess I'm going in circles a little bit, and I don't mean to, but what I'm trying to get out is you have to absolutely 110%. I agree with you 1,000 times over that you have to realize who you are. You have to figure out who you are before you can even know really what you want,
Right.
and then you have to kind of
And
move forward from there.
exactly. And so a lot of times people who find themselves in the people pleasing mode do exactly what you're saying. They do
Yeah.
it not because not strictly because they're worried about pleasing the other person as much as they're worried about being accepted by the
Yeah.
other person.
Yeah, they may
And
not love me as much, or they may not
right,
like me as much, you
right,
know?
right. And when you've had conditional love in your life, which a lot of times is where this stem from, when you've had conditional love in your life in the past, especially if that was the case when you were a kid, you are taught that if you
Mhm.
don't meet certain expectations, then you are not good enough.
Well, it's like the old saying, "Walk it off, you're a man."
Right.
You know,
Okay. Say,
men
right.
don't
Yeah.
cry. You know, that
Right.
kind of mentality. And thankfully, I was raised predominantly by my mother, who, I mean, she did the best she could, and that's just a fact. But like she said, there were things she couldn't do for a young boy who needed a father, obviously. But she did teach me that it was okay to have my feelings. It was okay to cry, those kinds of things. But I think what made me the people pleaser is I saw her so let down by all these people in her life, not the least of which was a boyfriend or a husband. And I was so let down by my father not being in my life.
Hmm.
So I was set out that every kid that didn't have a father, I was going to be their dad. And I was never going to be the kind of father my father was. I was never going to be the kind of husband he was, or the kind of stepdad that my stepdad was, or the kind of boyfriend that my mom's boyfriend was, whatever the case. And I just created this persona of me based off of all that, and I had no idea who I actually was. Now, don't get me wrong, some of those things were great to aspire to, you know.
So you knew who you didn't want to be,
Right, right. And
but it's
that's
not the same as knowing who you are or who you want
exactly.
to be.
And then I found out just a few days ago actually. I woke up, I'd turned 46 years old. I looked in the mirror and I said, "You are a dead sexy beast. All you need is some polyester."
And that was
You know?
that.
And I knew who I was right then. I was the king of polyester. No,
You
you know,
be
in all
you,
re-
dude.
in all reality, it's a real how do I put that? It's a real simple but complicated thing. It's real complicated and complex because that's where your mind wants to take it, but it's actually all just so simple.
It's
And the
simple.
rule
It's
of
not
KISS
easy.
applies
That's
to
the
it.
difference.
Yeah,
Simple ain't always
yeah,
easy, but it is
right,
simple.
right. It's simple. I mean, you know, but anyway, to get back to what we were talking about with the different types of relationships and stuff, where does all this blend in and pertain to that? Well, it very easily pertains to this because a lot of people go into the different types of relationships, A, because they've only been in one type of relationship and they're like, okay, that hasn't worked. Let me try this. And that happens more often than not. Or they're still trying to find who they are, who they really are. Let me
True.
experience this and see if this fits. Maybe this is, you know, so it pertains to it. You have to, again, it goes back to what you said, and you said it very well. You have to know who you are.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with exploring
No,
things
that's how
till
you find out.
right until you know life is an adventure. I don't love the word journey. I think it's overused. That's probably why I don't love it.
Yeah,
But life is an adventure. and
right,
and and you don't know what's happening around each bend, each corner. And as you go through this adventure, each little thing impacts you. You assimilate what you want, you reject what you want, and each little piece builds a part of who you are.
right.
So, you can look back 20 years ago when I was 20, and it was not 20 years ago, but when I was 20, I thought I knew who I was. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not
I
saying a word.
I did not know who I was, but I thought I knew it. I thought I knew everything, right?
Right,
But the thing is that even those pieces of me that were there then that got lost in an abusive relationship, there's a lot of those pieces of that girl that have resurfaced.
right,
Okay. It's not in the same way, right? I'm not cocky and and I'm less bossy. I'm not gonna say I'm not bossy, only because my husband's in the kitchen and he'll come running in here. But
yeah,
yeah, but the thing is that there are those pieces of me that I had lost inside this time in this space of where
right,
you weren't allowed to be that person without some sort of punishment, whatever it was. And again, in a conditional place where you're not okay. So here's the thing: when you know who you are and when you only just be who you are, then the people around you get to know that. And the people who are attracted to you are attracted to you
the real you.
and the
Yeah,
real you. And they're going to accept that. They are going to know what they're getting into. It's not that you don't require communication on some deeper levels, but they know going into it, here's this person and these
right,
quirks and the polyester. And I just love that about him. And that's what's
yeah,
going to pull them to you, your unique you, as opposed
right.
to what will pull somebody to me, my unique me.
And if I may, I want to go back to something you just said too
Hmm.
that kind of struck me. You know, there's there's a lot of ways that people look at things differently than I do, and I'm sure my ways are a lot different than most people's, and so on and so forth, and what have you. But you said something there about losing bits and pieces of yourself, or not necessarily losing them, just kind of they kind of fade to the back for a while, if you
Hmm.
will. And I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a songwriter friend of mine, and we were discussing writing a song together. And I had these ideas, and he had these ideas, and we're discussing it. And he says, "Man," he says, "you haven't wanted to write anything like this in the last 15 years. This is the you that I knew when we started writing songs together." And that kind of gave me pause for a minute because I'm like, wait a minute, I've always wanted to write stuff like that. And then I got to thinking, and I'm like, no, wait a minute, because it has such a deep effect on you and who you are that it cannot help but trickle over into all the other areas of your life: songwriting, personality, whatever, you
Mhm.
know. And that was the thing. I was just like, because for a long time I thought, man, I'm falling out of touch with music. I don't know what people like anymore, and I'm not into all this newer stuff. And then I sat down and I rediscovered music. Oddly enough, uh, do you know who Rob Thomas is?
Yeah.
Okay, I rediscovered music because of him, because I liked Matchbox 20
Mhm.
when they first came out and stuff, but I didn't listen to them a lot because back at that time you got to realize I was playing a lot of country western bars and dance halls, and so I was doing a lot of modern day country at that time that
Mhm.
was popular with the crowd and so forth. So I didn't really have a lot of time to get into that music, and then I dabbled in that music for a while here and there, and then a while back Rob Thomas came up with a song on a solo album that I had never heard,
Mhm.
and it was called Pieces,
Mhm.
and it was beautiful piano work. I love piano work. But I'm listening to this song, listening to the words of these songs. And by the end of the song, I'm bawling like a baby, and I'm sitting there thinking, but wait a minute. And it was just such a deep connection to the song, and it was the way he worded it and his uniqueness about how he writes and how he's singing. I started thinking, man, I feel all this. Why can't I write like this? Why can't I get that from my head to the paper? And then I realized the only thing that was stopping it was me, because I had become so programmed in who I thought I was and what I thought I had to be and what I thought I had to put out and write. And so now I'm sitting here writing stuff and I'm reading it after I write it and I'm like, whoa, I wrote that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it does. It has an effect. What I went into all that to say was it does. It has an effect. And those pieces of you that you kind of put back or that kind of fade back, they will come back the more you get to be you and the more you start opening up to who you really are. Those things start
Mhm.
coming back and you start, it's kind of like what was that they used to say, the sense of smell. We attribute apple pie
Oh, right.
to mom's apple pie, to home, to being a child, whatever.
Right. Well, like the science behind that really is that that is the only sense in your body of all five senses that's linked to your limbic system, which is the emotional center of your brain
Right,
and the memory center of your brain. So, smells are the things closest linked to memory.
right. And if you, I've always told everybody, I said, if you want to know who skinny really is, all you got to do is listen to my music.
Mhm.
Check any of my playlists, check the music, even the covers that I do that I put out there. You'll know who I am
Cuz you
because,
connect. You don't do a
yeah,
cover that you
I
don't
will
connect to.
not sing. No, I will not. I just did Wicked Game.
Mm.
Never wanted to try that song in my whole lifetime.
Oh, nice.
And every song that I've ever done, I connect to it, or I can't do it. I just can't. I can't do something just because it's popular. And that used to get me in trouble a lot. And I'd be up there singing. It was like I was going through the motion, and it sounded very stoic and plastic. But now that I do Southern rock and blues and different stuff like it, stuff that I can feel, and I'm writing stuff that I can feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a whole different thing, and it's like that part of me only in the last 5 6 years I've discovered.
Yeah.
You know?
It takes some work to get back to that person and then
Yeah.
to allow that person to then become the grown up that you are now, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't know
Right.
if I'm saying that right.
You're saying it right. I mean
You
that and how that works to the relationships real quickly is if you don't know who you are, then how do you know what you really want out of life and what you really want out of the relationships in your life? Because there's a lot of people that I've been friends with that I thought at the time were the greatest thing in the world. And I can honestly tell you today, and it's not because of what they did to me. Don't take me wrong. But if I had never met them, looking at it for what it is, I would never be friends with.
Mm,
So all that changes. So it's bound, it has to have some kind of diverse effect on a relationship. It just has to. And
mhm.
again, you can't go into a relationship not knowing who you are and expect that person to fulfill that part of you because you don't even know.
Right. And you know, it reminds me of something that Sam said when she came on my show. And it was and I think it was said in a movie somewhere, but her mom said it to her. And it was something to the effect when she was going through, or coming out of an abusive relationship or dealing with that.
Hmm.
And, you know, her story is crazy. If y'all don't know it, go listen to it. It's here on a
Yeah.
replay. But her mom said something to her like, "Who are you? Like, I don't know you anymore. Like, how do you
Right.
like your eggs?" And it was that. And I think she went through this with everybody she was with. She was like, "Oh, they were like, I like my eggs scrambled. Oh, I like my eggs scrambled. I like my
Right.
eggs fried over easy. Oh, I like my eggs over easy. I like my eggs. I
Yeah.
like my eggs put
You mimic and you adapt because it's easier.
right." And when confronted with such a simple decision of how do you want your eggs, and you can't decide because you don't even freaking know.
Right. So you go with the easy option. And I love how you, and I'm going to use that by the way from now on. Consider it stolen. It's
Sorry.
simple but not easy.
There you go. And
And she
that's the
went for the
truth.
easy choice. It's easier to say, okay, I like mine scrambled too. And I get that. And by the way, Sam is a unbelievably strong and wonderful person. And trust me, people have no idea. And that's why that Dave refers to himself as the lesser half, and he's not wrong.
Well, except that, and I took a little, like I
Issue
said,
with that. I know I was
yeah,
there.
I did because first of all, I like that he feels like that, but I do think that if you asked Sam, and she jokes about it, but even in the show, because Dave came up and talked with us for a little bit too, and he said, you know, I noticed she was doing that,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
told her,
Dave's been good for her,
oh,
and
absolutely.
she's
And
been
that's why I
good for
said
Dave.
sometimes in a relationship you actually, if you're being your true self, even if you don't know
Hmm.
yourself, but you're honest about that, you're allowed
Right.
to grow into who you're supposed to be with someone.
Right.
And
And that's great.
that's what he did though. He called her out on it. He's like,
Yeah.
"Stop doing this. I don't want you to just be yes to all of what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you know?" And I think it also dawned on her, like, I'm doing it again
Hmm.
and I don't need to. Like, he's
Right.
already accepted me. He's already accepted me for who I am. And
And now
that
I don't
is
honestly think she could ever go back to being that person again. Now,
no, but she shouldn't. Right?
no.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
mean,
And it shouldn't have.
he gave her the wings on that one, and in turn, though, in all reality, just from being in and around them and being close to them and hearing them talk, and she's been great for Dave because she's given Dave something that he's never really
Right.
had. So it's like both of them, and that's the thing that I'm saying, and that goes back to something you said earlier about growing into a relationship, growing into who you are with somebody, and you said it again just recently. The thing is, you know, she had to make that even work. She had to be willing to hear him when he said that and hear what he was saying instead of
Mhm.
taking it as some kind of hard-nosed criticism.
Mhm.
She's like, wait a minute, he really wants to love me for me. He really wants to know me for who I am. He wants me to be me,
Right. And
you know?
so I think that another point then that I'm just like it's coming up is that even though you should know yourself and know who you are, know your core values and all of these things, it
Right.
doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
What it has to be is you going, I'm not compromising myself and who I am for someone else. And the
Right.
person who wants me is not going to want me to compromise that either. Even if I don't know everything about me right now, because let's face it, we're always growing and we're always changing. So if you're going to be in a 10-year relationship, you're both going to be two different people 10 years from now.
Right.
So
Well,
you
and
have to.
and that's the thing. I'm totally like there's a trade off there too because like I can do denim sometimes. It don't have to be all polyester. You know, we can do denim Saturdays.
Well,
Khaki Fridays.
you need a satin or a silk girl because polyester and satin and polyester and silk go great
Yeah,
together.
but now in my experience, the silk girls and satin girls, especially the satin girls, wow, they get you in a lot of trouble. I just want to throw that out there, okay?
You might be true. You might be right about that. You might be right about that. Well,
But no,
anyway.
it's been a great opportunity to jump on here and speak with you as it always is. I love
Oh,
talking
I
to you.
appreciate it. I haven't even been able to get into hardly any shows. I've barely been getting into my show, to be honest with you.
I've
I
not been
think,
on here at all in several months. I've just been kind of I left Omaha, as you probably know, and relocated to Florida. I live
oh,
in
I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I live in I'm about an hour and a half, I guess, away from Tampa.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
working full time again, doing maintenance tech stuff that I used to do. So
Hmm,
it's pretty good to me, and I got a nice little place, and I'm happy. It's just
good.
it's and I don't miss the only thing I don't miss about Omaha really is the cold weather. Other than that, I
Right?
miss Omaha.
Right.
So,
You
but
can
yeah,
miss the
so that's where
people,
I'm at.
but the weather,
Yeah. Yeah, I miss
yeah.
all my friends and stuff that I made there and yeah, and I miss Omaha. Omaha was a great place to be and everything. And not that Florida's not. I got a lot of new friends here in Florida. I love Florida. I love the weather. I'm sure I'm going to be regretting that around June. But again, there's throw myself into a beach or something. But
I was just going to say, you're really close to water, so it's
oh
fine.
yeah, yeah. Well, too close because like the first month I was here, I think we went through two hurricanes.
Hmm.
So I got
I
broke
live
in
in New
right.
Orleans, so I mean, we go to through
Yeah,
hurricanes too. So
yes.
you
Well,
know
you're not
what?
that far down the stretch then.
Right. So you know what? You get warning for a hurricane and you leave. Nothing is worth
Mm.
staying. Just listen to the warnings and go. Just
Dad or
go.
grab onto a pole, and when the news camera
No,
rolls by, say, "We love it here."
don't grab onto a pole. The wind is stronger than you and it doesn't need energy. It just keeps going and you're going to run out of energy.
Hey, I was
Just
going to
go.
ride the storm out till that big piece of tin off somebody's roof come whizzing past my head, and I'm like, "All right, grab stuff. We're getting in the car. We're out."
That's right. I'm out of here.
Yep.
Hurricane Katrina scared me enough to know that never again. I won't
Yeah.
stay. I
Ian
won't stay.
wasn't so bad here, but like when it made landfall, like down in southern Florida, it
Mhm.
was oh my
Mhm.
God, it decimated the whole place. But
Yep.
like here, I got a little bit of damage around, but
No,
wasn't terrible.
I have family in Cape Coral in that area and
Oh God, that place was decimated.
it was bad.
Yeah. But anyway, much love to you, and it's so great getting to talk to you again.
I know it was nice hearing from you again. You know you're welcome to come by anytime. Love
I'm going to try
chatting.
to start popping in. I got a
Yeah.
couple things lined up. I'm going to try to do, and I'm on iHeartRadio, Spreaker Radio, Google
I love it.
Podcast,
With the podcast, what's the podcast name?
Spotify.
Give us a
Into the Real.
into the real, into the real.
Yes.
Good. All right. And
Yeah.
so it's just a true podcast just out
Yeah.
on
I'm.
podcast
It's a
platforms, nothing
podcast.
here.
No, it's actually a podcast slash radio show, and it's all audio. You can catch it on YouTube now. I've got it to where it's going to my YouTube. It breaks up my. The only thing I don't like about it is for some reason it breaks up my shows into 15-minute segments. So like one show will have like 15-minute segments to it. Um, last show I did, I had Drew Goddard. He was on Rocksteady's podcast at one time. He's
Oh yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a
He did one with me
yeah,
too. He was the one that was in
yeah.
prison for a bit, right?
Yeah, really
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
guy. He was
Mhm.
on with me. We went in more in depth into his childhood and
Oh wow.
fast forward to where he's at now and things he's got going on now. And he's going to come back on. He's got a lot of cool stuff going on, so he's going to come
Yeah.
back. But you ought to come and be on the show anytime you want to. Like I
Oh
said,
yeah,
it's
I'd love
all
to.
audio. I don't do any video yet. I'm not. I'm kind of weighing back and forth on that, and
Yeah.
I've got a pretty good deal laid out with iHeartRadio and Spreaker Radio, which Spreaker is the platform that I use, but they're owned now by iHeartRadio.
Okay.
So everything I do, it goes out on all that and Spotify and all them places. So, but yeah, I'd love to have you on sometime, and I'll be back
Absolutely.
in here. I'll pop back in a little more now that I'm finally getting things calmed down to where I can focus on. I got
Tell me
like three
about it. Tell me
phones.
about
Yeah, I
the
mean, I got
last
an
4 months.
iPhone
I
for
was just
this.
barely treading water on here, just like, all right, I'm just going to commit to being on here on Tuesdays. And then
Hmm.
I'll go watch replays sometimes. So, like, or if I'm in the car or something, sometimes I'll get to listen to replays, but it's hard. It's hard. It's been really hard. But in March, I think, because we're going on vacation on Saturday, and then in March, maybe I'll come up for air for a little while. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I'm going to start dropping my show. Like I can record it anytime,
Yeah.
and it's in a portable situation, so I can take it anywhere I go.
Oh, that's nice.
So what I figure I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start dropping it on every Sunday. That way, it's on iHeart and all those places, and it's on YouTube. It'll all be on there on Sundays,
Mhm.
and that gives me a week to kind of piece a show together and do whatever. And I love the format. It's simple, it's easy to use,
And
and
what's the
it's
name of
just
the platform?
it's a
Spreaker.
Spreaker Studio. And it's just really simple to use, and you can put it on your laptop, you can put it on your phone, you can take it wherever you go, and it
All
just
right.
and all your sound, like you got a soundboard, and like all your sound bites you can upload to it, all your sounds and like your bells and whistles, all that crap, it's all right there at your fingertips and not on a soundboard. And it's even got its own sound deal too if you
Oh.
just want to use straight phone, which I
Hmm.
use a headset, but still.
Hmm.
So it's a whole lot more you.
Portable.
Yeah, well, it's portable and it's a whole lot more you instead of the mechanic sound. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
you can
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
play around with headsets. Like the headset I got now, I bought like several different headsets, ridiculously expensive ones. This one cost me $30, and it sounds as good as anything I've used. So
Thank you.
you know,
That's the way it goes.
yeah.
Yes.
So, but anyway, I look forward to getting a chance to talk with you again, and I'm going to get
Yep.
on out of here. I got to ride down the road and get me some discounted donuts.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Oh
All
yeah,
right.
there's
Yeah, I
nothing
know.
better
You
than
and
a
I are
hot
related to
donut.
me. Hot donuts, always good.
Yes.
All right. Well, no, I appreciate you jumping up and having the conversation with me. I enjoy talking. Yeah, and yeah, feel free, like I said, to come back anytime. I'm
Absolutely.
gonna
And
wrap it
I
up here too because it's 9:05, so it's past my bedtime.
well, you should come on the show sometime.
Well, is
So,
it an open platform? Like I can pop into your show? How do I do it?
well, actually, the way I've been doing it, and it sounds kind of archaic, but it's really not. Like you have, just by example, you have Instagram, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, you can call me over Instagram, and what I do is I hook the phone into a sound box, basically, and I just open and record it, and it's like
Okay.
you're sitting in the room with me.
Well,
Simple as that.
Message me on Instagram, and let's figure out a time.
Alrighty, we'll
Don't have
do
to
it.
be in
We'll
March
do it.
though. Just keep that
That'll
in
be
mind.
that'll be fine. That'll be
All
fine. And you have a good one and stay safe. Much love.
right. Thanks. Thanks for coming up. All right, so I'm gonna wrap up here, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. We really, I think that went really well. Love talking about love, what it means, how we have to love ourselves in order to be able to actually be able to connect with other people. And love is vulnerable because we're leaving ourselves open to hurt when you do that. But I would venture to say, as much as the song says, like Skinny said, love hurts, I would venture to say for most of us, we'd say it's very much worth it. So, with that being said, I'm going to say to you guys, I see you. You are beautiful. And until next time, love each other, stay connected, shine on. Bye bye now.